If you're here, I know one thing for sure, you're a plant nerd. There's no way you'd be putting yourself through this otherwise. Spending months sweating over soil, plants, and other tiny little details, and absolutely living and breathing every single leaf. I wanted to make this video because so many people have asked me and DM'd me about how I funded Flora. What funding did I manage to get? What was the cost in the whole build? And is there anything I would do differently? Show gardens look glamorous from the outside, but behind the scenes, it's a mix of grants, crowdfunding, sponsorship, chaos, and a lot of grit. In this video, I'm breaking down how exactly I funded my RHS show garden called Flora that exhibited at Malvern 2025, including grants, sponsorship, crowdfunding, goods in kind, hidden costs, and practical tips to keep your budget under control. But before I get started, I just wanted to mention that you can absolutely do it on a much tighter budget than mine. You've just got to really factor that into the initial design and be really clever with how you arrange the components of your build. So let's talk numbers because this stuff matters. I hope you've got a spreadsheet ready for your own costings because you will need it, especially if you're doing more like influencing full time or it's part of your job. Say if you own a plant shop and your plant shop is applying for this space, then you can take it back on your taxes. You can get it refunded on your taxes if you can prove how much you've spent on it. And I think you can do that because it's a marketing thing for your business. Or if you're an influencer and you're a sole trader, you can claim it back. You will eventually be able to claim it back on taxes. So let's get into it. So I had a 4.5k grant from Green Rooms Market. They were the people at the time that were putting on the Festival of Houseplants, and they gave everyone who was exhibiting 4.5 grand, half at the start before we got underway, and then once we'd cleaned up and everything was out and it was looking all great, they gave us the other part of it. Some people did use the grant to cover the whole cost of the build. I think Johnny did this, and I'm not sure about Emma if she did, but she was very savvy with her costings, and I'll get into more of that later. But realistically, this money, depending on your design, isn't going to cover the whole cost of your builds, and it won't touch your accommodation, food, and other expenses you need to exhibit.
I was lucky enough to be sponsored by the John Brooks Denmans Foundation. The foundation promotes a design legacy for John Brooks, MBE, one of the most influential garden designers of the 20th century. Its mission is to inspire students, professionals and homeowners by advancing the art of garden and landscape design. Central to this is the ongoing development of Denmans Garden in West Sussex as a living centre of design and excellence. So they ended up really supporting me and sponsoring the majority of the money towards the project.
And they were hugely impactful in getting this set together. I would have not been able to do the build to the standard that I did without them. Their belief in the project was huge, and we ended up relocating the garden to Denmans Garden afterwards. Then I set up a crowdfunder. I got £1,290 from there, and that was donations from friends, family, colleagues, and even strangers on the internet who came together. I did create some different tiers so that people could get something in return if they wanted to, like plant pots or plants from the exhibit. On the lower tiers, like a thank you letter. For those who didn't select a tier but really went above and beyond with their donation, I also got printed photos that I took at the event, so at least they could have some like little memento of it afterwards, and I did write them a little thank you note if I had their address. My nan was also very generous and paid for my vehicle hire. I had to hire a 4-metre van for just over 2 weeks because she wanted to help in a practical way, and she helps like other people, my cousins, other charities and stuff, and this is what she wanted to do for me because she really believed in the project. So in total I raised £13,116.81. My major cost, I think this is the majority of my cost, was my custom neon signs for Flora. They were from Kings of Neon, and although I got a 50% discount on them, they were still more than the van hire for 2 weeks, which says to how expensive just getting custom neon signs are. But it was totally worth it, and it completely brought my vision to life, and people absolutely loved those neon signs. designs, so completely worth it. So yeah, my main costings were the van hire, the neon signs, and I got my own Danish trolleys. This was because it was just weirdly cheaper to just buy them brand new than it was to hire them or even borrow them. And it was hard to borrow from local nurseries because they're all on an exchange scheme. So the trolleys have a little tag on the front of them, usually a green one on the front and a red one on the back, I think. And they get scanned into the depots and stuff. So it's on a European exchange for like trolleys and stuff. So they don't have to get their own trolleys back. They just get, it's all in a cycle and stuff. It works pretty well. But it does mean that they won't just let you borrow trolleys. And it also means that I could keep them for future projects. It meant that I could transport over 300 plants. 300 seems to be the theme, over 300 plants to the show in just 3 trolleys, so that was pretty useful. And I would be able to keep them for my own future projects and transporting everything to Denman's. So at the show, I used a lot of plants I'd already propagated. I actually went and got a plant passport license so I could issue plant passports for my own plants, catalogue them and take them up to the show. I also used as much furniture as I could or props that we had lying around from when I was a teenager, all my school stuff, donated stuff from friends and family, furniture from charity shops to keep the costings down. But that wouldn't have necessarily tied everything together. I still really wouldn't have been able to do it without goods in kind. So goods in kind refer to items that were donated, services provided, or other non-monetary contributions. So I had Anna from Horticulture donating the hanging plant wall planter, I'm saying that right. Horty House, Farm Plants and Greens teams donating plants. Westland donating soil and other sundries. Hawes made me custom plant pots. Kings of Neon provided a huge discount on their neon lighting. And Salt Hill VR donated their time and a full year's Matterport hosting for my 3D render. And in a way, I was building this garden with my friend John, and he donated his time and his team's time for this, as well as some materials that weren't recuperated in the grant money. So that was kind of like goods in kind of, because it's service. So basically it was one huge big team effort, and it was born out of generosity and community as much as money. Quite a few of these people reached out to me on social media when they found out that I was doing the project. So I really recommend, when your project is out of embargo, post as much as you can about it. People will be interested. There's a strong community out there. People will want to just help you, and you know, take that help, because you'll need it in the nicest way possible. There are so many hidden costs to also factor in when you're planning your budget. I'm putting up on the screen now like all the kind of hidden costs. If you look at a picture of my show garden, you'll see very little there of the actual cost that went behind it, and like all the little things like glue and nails and all those things that add up quite a lot and you don't even think about it. Paint is so expensive. The majority of these hidden costs were covered by the sponsorship, but I did have to use some of my own savings to make up for the shortfall. These little costs like add up so much faster than you think. I also covered meal costs for those that were volunteering, and if people were traveling a particularly long distance, the fuel cost as well. If you're spending weeks in the mud with people who are sacrificing their free time to help, the least you can do is feed them and get them there. Okay, so now let's talk about how to save money without losing your soul. Hire instead of buy. Emma saved loads of money by having a concept that was really very clever, the wedding idea. She saved loads of money by hiring plants and furniture, even the flooring, which was a dance floor. And it did mean that the delivery companies, the hiring companies, could deliver to the showground, and they also came to collect it. So that cleanup was so quick. So think about what elements of your design you could get hired out. Spend strategically, go high on high impact items like I did for my neon signage that were really strong elements in my design that I would have got marked down on if I didn't have them. And then everything else, either the filler stuff, all donated, charity shops, go to the tip and see what you can find there. Keep filler items really simple. Use goods in kind. Suppliers are often thrilled to be part of a show and part of something. It's good for their marketing. Borrow and share resources. There's going to be quite a few people there, so if you know someone who is also designing, see what you can do to share resources with them. That's including tools, props, even random decorative bits that can be borrowed. Plan your consumables carefully, how things are going to be attached together. Don't leave everything to the last minute. I know this is kind of obvious. For example, I did have slightly higher print costs for my leaflets because it took longer for me to finalize my design, and I only just hit that deadline, and it was super stressful. But also I had to pay an extra expediting fee as well, so that could have been avoided if I just had everything in advance. Even small things here and there can make a massive difference. One of the big factors is accommodation. You can stay on the site, the Three Counties Showground campsite, for free. Which is what quite a few people did during the build and the show, and that will save you hundreds and hundreds of pounds because that area gets booked up quickly. It always is packed, and the hotels really shoot their prices up around that time. So this is another interesting bit, is what could I have done differently? What would I do differently next time? These things I may not have had time to do because I was moving house at the same time. I was also starting a new job at the same time. Everything was really stressful, but if I were to do it again and I had that time to really plan it, if I knew in 2 years' time I was going to do this, this is what I'd be planning out. I'd be planning out a whole marketing, media and financial strategy. These might be some other useful funding opportunities. So one thing is approaching local businesses for sponsorship. That's like restaurants, cafes, garden centres, signage people, services, anything that kind of links to your design concept. So example, if you're doing something about biophilic design and interior design with houseplants, you might want to reach out to your local Tyler Winfrey's or whatever's building a new like estate nearby. You might want to reach out to them and be like, can we advertise you on the sign, get some promo for you for the new build happening in the area? And they might want to take some plants from the exhibit back with them, and they might want to put some plants in their houses. You never know. You can contact tradespeople, independent makers, local companies with a community focus. So if you had a theme on mental health like I did, you could reach out to any community charities or youth groups or anything like that to see if they want to get involved. They probably wouldn't be able to help with monetary sponsorship, but they might be able to help you out with volunteers or items, donated items. I do want to be quite clear, a lot of the PR opportunities or sponsorships at Malvern are quite limited. You can't display sponsored signage in the exhibit due to the judging rules. You can only really do product placement, which is what I did with Westland and LGL, and that's how they could get their brand in the exhibit. And it did make sense there because it was a teenager's bedroom. You know, you're going to have plant feed in there if you've got loads of plants. You could, after the judges have been round, end up putting stuff back in there, like little signs and stuff, but the RHS might ask you to remove it. They are quite hot on things like that, so you might not be able to get away with it, so I wouldn't promise it to your sponsors. At the show though, you can hand out leaflets with all your information on them and showcase your sponsors there. There are rules about these leaflets with how much is about the exhibit and how much is about your sponsors. I think it's going to be 2/3 about your exhibit and then 1/3 sponsors. And you can use your QR code in your leaflet to link to your website where you could put more information about the sponsors up there. You can do blog posts with backlinks to your sponsor's website. You share on your own social media, take pictures of their product, make videos with them that they can share on their own social media platforms, their own marketing, and they also get to be on the sign next to your exhibit. You may get approached by larger companies wanting to be a sole supplier of, say, furniture or plants. Before you say yes, make sure that the products they can provide hit your judging criteria. That's really important. Or you could drop points in your marking. For example, if they wanted to be your sole plant supplier, make sure they can provide enough plants. Like I had to go and buy more because around 300 wasn't enough to fill that space, and that the plants do contain some rare rarer or unusual ones, because the judges do pick up on that. You can't just have a monocrop of just blue star ferns. You can't just have loads of the same types of plants. You've got to have a lot of variety in there. And also, one company may not be able to supply this amount of variety throughout the year. So if they're a UK plant supplier, they might not be able to sell you calatheas at that time of year, who knows, and you might have to import them from the Netherlands, but you can't do that if they're your sole supplier and they've made that agreement with you. All in all, if a business is expecting prominent signage or guaranteed media coverage or film coverage, TV coverage, whatever, it can be harder to offer that at RHS shows. That doesn't mean it's not possible. It just means you need to be upfront and realistic about what you can offer. So other things that you could do that I have not done. This includes hosting fundraising events such as workshops, talks, or plant swaps. You could do that in, say, your local town hall. You could hire it out with our village town hall. You could hire it out for like something really cheap, like 20 quid or 10 quid. And then you could charge about £2.50 a fiver for people to come and hear you talk about plants and stuff. And that is a good way of raising money for an hour. You could approach horticultural colleges for collaboration. I think Pershore is the nearest horticultural college to Malvern. Applying for more grants earlier in the process, such as the Arts Council Award, and offering behind the scenes content or naming opportunities on social media if you are a big influencer, or on Patreon if you have a really strong community following that pay for additional videos and stuff. All of these work really well depending on your garden theme, your story, and your network. So here are the things that helped me. Reach out to the show's team. Your contact can give you stats, guidance, and audience information on who attends these shows, especially the previous year's audience information. Who turned up to the show can be really important for sponsors and pitching your ideas to them. Target realistic sponsors. Local businesses can't usually give 5k, but they can do smaller contributions like good in kind usually, even if it's borrowed. And that support really does add up. Tell a story. That's the way you connect with your audience, but also with potential sponsors and partnerships. Sponsors care about your concept and audience, not just a logo on a sign. Be professional and approachable. No one likes being asked for ridiculous amounts of money out of nowhere. Lastly, I approached everyone in the industry that I knew and cold contacted people I didn't know because I knew the majority would say no, but some may surprise you and say yes, but absolutely everyone. There's a few things that I've had other people do. I'm not talking about Malvern here. I'm talking about other shows that I've had, like doesn't have to be in horticulture, other projects that people have worked on. And I just want to clear a few things up. So don't assume that your friends and family will cover large costs. They have their own things going on in their lives, and this isn't a life-threatening situation. You know, if they want to be generous, if they can afford to be generous, they will be generous, but don't take it personally if you just get a few quid here and there, and just be grateful that you can just get something. You've got to be clear and practical about contributions from people you know, friends and family, etc. Think no one owes you anything, and stay humble. Don't walk into small businesses and ask for 5k out of nowhere. I've heard stories of people doing this, and this isn't just for plant shows but for other things too, and it just shows a lack of understanding of how small businesses work and how tight the cash flow can be. Also done in the wrong way can come across really entitled. Don't forget to budget for accommodation, meals, fuel, and last minute fixes. These things stress you out way more than the big ticket items. Luckily, I was able to stay in a kid's bunk bed in my friend's caravan on the campground and no extra cost. So I'm grateful for that. I had backache for days, but you know what? It was worth it to save hundreds of pounds. So there you have it, the messy, exciting, expensive, and absolutely rewarding truth of funding my Flora indoor plant garden at RHS Malvern. If you are going to other shows, there will be other costs as well, such as if you're exhibiting at Chelsea, don't forget to factor in your delivery costs. They will be exceedingly higher That's because of the way the show is structured. A lot of your deliveries have to have a time slot, and they will be held in a car park or a field near Battersea somewhere, and they will be given a time slot to go over. So if they arrive early, they're gonna charge more. Maybe they'll charge a whole day rate. Some of them, they wait 5 or 6 hours to actually get into Chelsea, so I've heard. So just really bear that in mind. Luckily at Malvern, there didn't seem to be any issues with delivery. It seems to be a pretty in and out situation, all under control. So I hope this helps anyone planning their own show garden and understand what's realistic, what to ask for, and how to keep costs under control. And to remind you, plant nerds, this is what we signed up for. If you have questions about funding, sponsorships, hidden costs, other tips for your own garden, leave them in the comment section below. I'd love to help. And also you can find more about my show garden in the description below. And if you're working on your own show garden, I can't wait to see it. Bye.